That was a cold evening, the type that makes folks want to get home quickly. However, one woman had a different experience. She lived on a bench beside the street that was falling apart, and the only warmth she felt came from the old clothes she had been able to collect. Although she was homeless and went unnoticed by most people, just another forgotten person in the busy city. However, she was unaware that a fortuitous meeting with a stranger would not only impact her life, but also the life of one of the wealthiest men in the world. Unknown person, it is none other than Elon Musk. The events that followed would leave the globe in a state of disbelief. Elon Musk, who is known for his lofty ideas to colonize Mars and change the way people travel by using electric cars, is not the kind of person you would expect to see walking around by himself. However, that evening, in an attempt to relax after a day that had been very stressful, he made the spontaneous decision to take a walk through a part of town that he did not go to very often. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he was incognito because his security detail was nowhere to be found. While he was walking past poorly lit alleyways, he noticed an old woman sitting on a bench. Casually, she had her head down and was wrapping herself closer in a worn-out blanket. She attempted to keep warm, but her weak hands shook. Elon hesitated for a while, but then he intuitively walked over to her, feeling an inner urge to find out whether she needed assistance. Amiran, you feeling okay? Elon leaned down to her level and asked her in a gentle voice. The woman raised her head and her face, which was worn and old, showed that she was surprised. "I'm okay, son," she said in a voice that was almost above a whisper. "I'm just trying to get through another night." What transpired next was a moment of pure humanity. Elon, who was famous for his intelligence and accomplishments, encountered a person who had nothing. He took a few bucks out of his pocket and gave them to her without a second thought. However, the woman did not take the money. Instead, she gazed up at him with eyes that were penetrating and full of a kind of wisdom that can only be gained from surviving the most difficult struggles in life. "You seemed a lot going on in your head, young man," she observed, her voice now more even. "You realize that money can't solve all problems, right?" Her comment surprised Elon. Answering, in his world, money was the solution to issues. It constructed rockets, financed research, and transformed industries. However, when he stood in front of this woman who was homeless, he came to the realization that there were many things it could not heal. She was not asking for a donation or a freebie. She was providing something much more valuable than empathy. She was providing to say, "You remind me of my son." He was constantly occupied with work, always rushing around and pursuing something, but he never truly took the time to enjoy life. You appear to be similar to him. Elon, who's unusually quiet, took a seat next to her. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he was not the CEO of numerous organizations or the man who had the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he was just a human having a genuine conversation with someone who had lived a life that was very different from his. Alicia, Maggie, the elderly woman, told her story after he found out what her name was. She had lost her family, her house, and everything else that had once been important to her. However, she still had her spirit. Even on those difficult days, she was able to find reasons to grin. "I may not have much, but I'm still here," she remarked with a laugh. And it is a big deal, isn't it? Elon was moved by her strength and spent hours conversing with Maggie, listening to her stories about her life and the things she had lost. He offered her a place to stay for the night when the temperature dropped, but she turned him down. With a wink, she continued, "I've come this far. I will be perfectly okay." Elon got up the next morning to find that he had a lot of missed calls and emails. He had almost forgotten about his responsibilities after spending the night with Maggie, which had been a time of introspection for him. However, he couldn't escape the idea that he wanted to do more as he prepared for his day because something about the meeting had lingered with him. He made the decision to search for Maggie and provide her with more permanent assistance by looking into local shelters and support agencies. However, what happened next was something that even Elon Musk could not have foreseen. Later that day, when he arrived at his workplace, his assistant welcomed him with an important message. She handed him a tablet and said, "You need to see this." An article that had become extremely popular overnight was displayed on the screen. The picture showed him and Maggie seated on that bench and having a conversation. Al Passerby took the image and posted it on social media with the caption, "Billionaire Elon Musk seen with homeless woman late at night. What might they be talking about?" However, that was not the surprising part. Elon was surprised when he read the comments that were posted underneath the post. Maggie was recognized by one user. She was not just any homeless woman. She was a former scientist who had worked in some of the earliest stages of space research decades ago. She had been a trailblazer in the same field that Elon now dominated before she lost everything. Elon was in disbelief. How did this woman who had so much knowledge and experience wind up living on the streets? He was motivated by more than simply the desire to help, and he quickly began searching for her. He wanted to know more about her biography, her efforts, and how someone so significant could have been overlooked. A few days later, Elon located Maggie once more. This time, he was not simply offering assistance. He was giving her the opportunity to reestablish a connection with the world she had previously belonged to. Elon invited Maggie to visit SpaceX in a private meeting away from the cameras and the public eye so that she could meet with his team and impart her wisdom from the past. What began as a simple act of kindness had come back around to where it started. This is Maggie, a destitute woman who had nothing, had formerly made significant contributions to the foundations of the space industry. And now, because of that one instant of human connection, her story was being rewritten. However, it was not as easy as simply continuing from where she had stopped. Maggie had spent many years working in the space sector since those early days, and her knowledge, which had once been state-of-the-art, was now out of date in a field that was changing quickly. However, Elon was not only interested in her technical skills. He recognized something deeper in Maggie, something that could not be evaluated by any resume or achievement. It was a tenacity and wisdom that came from years of enduring the hardest hardships life could throw at her. At first, Maggie was hesitant because the idea of returning to a world that had abandoned her made her feel anxious. It felt weird to her to think of coming into SpaceX, one of the most advanced space exploration organizations in the world, especially because she hadn't been in a lab or an office for decades. However, Elon did not give up. He set up private sessions with the squad, away from the constant media scrutiny that followed him everywhere he went. He wanted Maggie to feel at ease and to understand that her experiences in both science and life were appreciated. On the day she ultimately consented and went through the doors of SpaceX, was struck with those sense of silent amazement. The engineers and scientists were not informed of her history, except for the fact that she had previously been involved in the early space programs. Some people curious about her presence started asking questions since they were excited to hear about the early days of space travel. At first, Maggie was reluctant, but she eventually began to share anecdotes from her time working on projects that had long been forgotten by most people. And she talked on the difficulties they encountered with basic technology, the hopefulness of the time period, and how everything seemed like a jump into the unknown. The younger engineers listened closely to every word she said as the room became quieter while she was speaking. Aggie had been involved in something extraordinary, groundbreaking work that had established the groundwork for the advancements they were currently making. Everyone in the room, including Elon, who sat silently and watched her take charge of the area, much as she probably had done in her younger years, was humbled by the moment. However, what Elon did not anticipate was the extent to which Maggie's narrative would strike a chord with the entire business. Her challenges, both in her personal life and her career, were not merely stories of hardship. They were also lessons in endurance, flexibility, and hope. After being inspired by her, a number of team members decided to go back and look at old research papers, some of which Maggie herself had worked on. They began to understand that there were concepts that had been thrown away a long time ago, but could be looked at again with the advanced technology they now had. Maggie's function at SpaceX began to expand beyond that of an advisor. Even though she did not participate in the daily technical operations, she became a sort of mentor to the younger engineers. During breaks, they would frequently look for her and ask for questions about her life and her opinions on the issues that are currently being faced. Sometimes they would just want to listen to her tell stories about a period when only a small number of courageous people shared the dream of exploring space. Her impact extended beyond the technical components of the organization. It became a symbol of something much larger, reminder that no matter how far someone falls, there is always a chance to rise again. Before long, her narrative, which was now connected to Elon Musk, started to circulate outside the confines of space. The media, which is always looking for a good story, swiftly took notice of it. Maggie, who had previously gone unnoticed on the streets, was now the center of attention. However, this time it was not only for a brief period of time. Journalists were anxious to know about her past, her contributions to early space programs, and how she became homeless, so they sought her out for interviews. She was open and honest, not avoiding the more difficult aspects of her experience, such as losing her work during a downsizing, the death of her family, and ultimately her descent into poverty. However, what surprised the world the most was how someone with such talent and intelligence could go unnoticed, so effortlessly. It led to a bigger discussion about how success is fragile and how even the smartest people might be overlooked when systems do not provide them with support. Elon, who was touched by the attention that her story was getting, made it a point to stress how important it is to take care of the people who are responsible for the breakthroughs. He used Maggie's experience to inspire change in his own firms, advocating for improved support networks for employees during and after their employment. Maggie's life changed in ways she never dreamed were conceivable as the months passed. She was no longer just a homeless woman. sitting on a bench. She was now a respected person who was sought after for her wisdom and experience. Elon kept his promise and gave her a place to live and financial assistance, making sure that she would never have to face hardship again. However, it was the respect she regained and the sense of purpose that brought her the most delight rather than the tangible changes. Elon had not only met Maggie by coincidence, their meeting had also been a pivotal moment for him. He came to the conclusion that success is not only about the next great project or technological breakthrough, it is also about people, the tales that are frequently left untold, and the fact that even in a world that is driven by development, the most important thing is the ties we have with each other. I really appreciate you taking the time to view this video and for accompanying me on this exciting journey. If you like this story and want to hear more stories about resilience, generosity, and life-changing situations, please remember to share and subscribe to the channel. We may discover even more amazing stories together that remind us of the beauty and strength of the human spirit. Keep watching. There's a lot more to come.